Brazil's government reveals plans to create a memorial made from artwork damaged in Sunday's riots by far-right protesters. Ukraine's foreign minister asks Germany for more military aid after Russian forces hit Kharkiv and advance in the east.
The European Union's Earth observation program Copernicus has released a report confirming that 2022 broke temperature records across the globe.
Brazil's Minister of Culture has revealed that her government wishes to create a memorial using artwork from Brasilia's Planalto Palace that was damaged during Sunday's riots by far-right protesters.
This is an artistic treasure of the Brazilian people that belongs to the nation and whose integrity needs to be respected. So it's very disrespectful and profound violence, and this memorial is for us to mark that, so that more violence of this level can never happen again or threaten our untouchable democracy.
Several pieces of art, including a painting worth around €1.4 million, were destroyed when thousands of supporters of former leader Jair Bolsonaro swarmed the presidential palace.
Brazil's scientific police have spent a day here at the country's Supreme Court, but also inside some of the other buildings that have been stormed by protesters. Over the weekend in the capital, Brasilia, they have been collecting physical evidence that will then be combined with some of the digital evidence widely shared online by protesters themselves on social media. The country's justice minister has said that multiple investigations have been open, investigations that are looking into who participated in these attacks, but also looking into who may have contributed financing some of these operations, including, for example, transporting some of the protesters who traveled from different parts of the country. Questions have also been raised about the role of security forces here in Brasilia and why more wasn't done to prevent those rioters from reaching these buildings in the heart of the Brazilian capital. Many political and security analysts are wondering whether or not President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has the support of the armed forces here in this country. And so the challenges ahead of Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva are enormous. He will have to reunite a country profoundly divided, an attempt to speak to half of the electorate who may not see him as their leader, all the while gathering the support of institutions on the side of democracy. Annalise Borges in Brazil's capital, Brasilia, for Euronews.
Russian shelling hit Ukraine's northeastern city of Kharkiv on Tuesday evening, just hours after the surprise visit of Germany's foreign minister Annalena Baerbock. She praised resistance in the city, while her Ukrainian counterpart Dmytro Kuleba called for more military aid.
Kharkiv is a reflection of all the horror of this brutal war led by Russia, but also the courage, the capacity to resist, and the hope of Ukraine to live in peace.
Kuleba said the longer it takes to make the decision, the more people will die, because of the lack of necessary tanks in our army. Russia's Wagner mercenary group has claimed full control of the Ukrainian town of Soledar, which, if confirmed, would mark Moscow's first major battlefield success since last summer. Ukraine's president is calling for more equipment and fast. The free world has everything necessary to stop Russian aggression, Zelensky said, and bring the terrorist state to a historic defeat. And it's important not only for us, it's important for global democracy, for all those who value freedom. It's even more important now when Russia is gathering forces for another escalation. Zelensky also revealed that he has revoked Ukrainian citizenship of 4 political figures, including Viktor Medvedchuk, once seen as Russian leader Vladimir Putin's top ally in Kiev.
A new record for cocaine seizures in the Belgian port of Antwerp. Belgian authorities say they seized almost 110 tons of the drug last year, a significant increase on the previous 12 months. The port is the main gateway for narcotics being shipped into Europe from Latin America. For the first time, Belgian and Dutch officials decided to jointly reveal their annual figures. Cocaine seizures in Antwerp surged from 89.5 tonnes in 2021 to 109.9, while in Rotterdam the trend was downward, dropping from 70 to 52.5 tonnes. It means Antwerp has now overtaken the Dutch city in terms of interceptions. Authorities in both countries remain alarmed at the amount of hard drugs being smuggled into Europe via container ships. They say crime gangs on both sides of the Atlantic are growing in size and ambition in response to the increasing demand in what is a highly lucrative market for them.
France's 8 main worker unions have announced a national day of strikes on January the 19th after the government unveiled a contentious pension overhaul. The changes are aimed at raising the retirement age from 62 to 64 by 2030. In addition, employees will need to have worked for at least 43 years to get a full pension starting from 2027. Centre-left and hard-left worker unions had unanimously expressed their disapproval of the changes after talks with Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne last week. Cardinal George Pell, whose conviction on child abuse charges shocked the Catholic Church, has died aged 81. The former Vatican treasurer was Australia's highest-ranking Catholic cleric and the most senior church figure ever jailed for such offences. A jury in 2018 found he'd abused 2 boys while Archbishop of Melbourne in the 1990s. Cardinal Pell, who always maintained his innocence, spent 13 months in prison before the High Court of Australia quashed the verdict in 2020.
Since Croatia joined the euro on January 1st, some people have complained of having to pay considerably more for their shopping basket. There are fears that some retailers are taking advantage of the change, but many still defend joining the single currency.
The law of the market is supply and demand, and that's it. Is it written in the law that you can't raise the price? And now they will cover it up under the euro. And it's not the euro's fault. Other things are to blame.
Whoever raised prices should bring them back down. It's not right because it's a disaster with prices anyway.
In response to complaints, store owners acknowledge that there have been changes because of rounding up.
We have just adjusted the prices. Some things went up, some things went down. In essence, people still find it a little more difficult to manage the euro.
We didn't even raise prices. It's normal. Conversion does not mean that prices should go up.
The president of the Croatian Chamber of Commerce and Handicrafts defends price increases as long as they're justified.
They have a valid reason why they raised prices. The other thing is whether they did not comply with the law, but rounded up the prices, so they made a mistake there.
Croatia recorded 13.5% inflation in November, as opposed to 10% in the Eurozone.
Many Europeans are still shuddering at the memory of the successive heat waves that have hit the continent since May. The EU's Earth observation program Copernicus has released a report confirming that 2022 broke records for its high temperatures.
Last year was the 5th warmest year globally and the 2nd warmest year for Europe. 2022 was also a year of climate extremes and rising concentrations of greenhouse gases. The urgency of climate action has never been more important.
The average temperature of the planet in 2022 was 1.2 degrees higher than in the pre-industrial era. This was not an isolated case. According to the report, the last 8 years have been the hottest ever recorded across the globe. As far as Europe was concerned, not everyone suffered equally. For most of the south and west of the continent, it was the warmest year on record. For others, it was the 2nd or 3rd. It was a circumstance that resulted in extreme droughts and large fires in countries like France or Spain. There were fatalities and huge economic and environmental losses. Emissions from forest fires were the highest in the last 15 to 20 years. The Copernicus report also found that greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere continued to rise in 2022. The CO2 level was the highest in more than 2 million years, and the methane level in more than 800,000 years.